Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 is a fighting game in the Mortal Kombat series, originally developed and released by Midway Games to arcades in 1995. It is an update of 1995's earlier Mortal Kombat 3 with an altered gameplay system, additional characters like the returning favorites Kitana and Scorpion who were missing from Mortal Kombat 3, and some new features. Several home port versions of the game were soon released after the arcade original, although none were completely identical to the arcade version. Some later home versions followed the arcade original with more accuracy. Some versions were released under different titles, Mortal Kombat Advance for the Game Boy Advance in 2001 and Ultimate Mortal Kombat for the Nintendo DS in 2007. The iOS version, recreating the game using a 3D graphics engine, was released by Electronic Arts in 2010. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 was mostly well received and has been considered a high point for the Mortal Kombat series. However, the iOS remake and some other home versions were received poorly in comparison to the arcade game. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 was updated to include more content from previous games in the series' Mortal Kombat trilogy in 1996. The 2011 compilation Mortal Kombat Arcade Collection includes an emulation of UMK3 as well as the first Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2. Gameplay. Several ninja characters absent from Mortal Kombat 3 return in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, including Kitana, Jade, Reptile and Scorpion on the prototype version. A new Ultimate Combat code was added in revision 1.0 to enable Millionaire, Ermac, and Classic Sub-Zero as secret characters. Two new gameplay modes were introduced, the 2-on-2 mode which was similar to an endurance match but with human players on both sides, and a new 8-player tournament mode. Several miscellaneous features were added to and changed in UMK3. The original red portal background used for the Choose Your Destiny screen is now blue and an extra master difficulty is present. In the additional master difficulty setting, endurance matches return, in which the player can face as many as 3 opponents in a given round. These had not been seen in the series since the first Mortal Kombat. Shao Kahn's Lost Treasures, selectable prizes, of which some are extra fights and others lead to various cuisines or other things, are introduced after either the main game or the 8-player tournament are completed. Shang Tsung's transformations are accompanied by announcements of the name of the character he is changing into. To balance the gameplay, some characters were given new moves and some existing moves were altered. Some characters were given extra combos and some combos were made to cause less damage. Chain combos could be started by using a jump punch or a vertical jump kick, which creates more opportunities to use combos. Combos that knock opponents in the air no longer send one's opponent to the level above in multi-layered levels. Only regular uppercuts do this. The computer-controlled opponent AI was improved in the game. However, 3 new flaws were introduced along with the revisions. While backflipping away from an opponent, if the player performs a jump kick, the AI character will always throw a projectile. This leaves the computer character vulnerable to some attacks and can easily lead into a devastating combo. If the player walks back and forth within a certain range of the AI character, the opponent will mimic the player's walking movements for the whole round and never attack. If the computer opponent is cornered, the player can repeatedly perform punches without the AI character stumbling back, thus allowing the player to win easily. UMK3 features several new backgrounds: Scorpion's Lair Hell, Jade's Desert, River Combat the Waterfront, Khan's Cave the Cavern, Blue Portal Lost, Noob's Dorphan. Before reaching any of the original MK3 backgrounds in 1 or 2 player mode, the game must cycle through all of the UMK3 exclusive backgrounds twice. Scorpion's Lair, Secret Cave and Abandoned River stages are selectable by using a password while on the Missing Bank stage cycle. In Scorpion's Lair, fighters can uppercut each other into Khan's Cave. Some elements from MK3 are missing in UMK3. The only biographies featured are those of Kitana, Jade, Scorpion and Reptile, which are the only 4 shown during attract mode, while all of the biographies in the full-body portraits of the MK3 characters are missing. The biographies that do appear in the game are presented differently from those in MK3, as are the endings. The storyline images and text do not appear. Finally, the bank and hidden portal stages from MK3 were removed. Characters. The arcade version features all playable characters from Mortal Kombat 3, who were portrayed by the same actors: Serax, Liu Kang, Cabal, Kano, Kung Lao, Stryker, Jax Briggs, Nightwolf, Sector, Shang Tsung, Shivak, Sindel, Smoke, Sonya Blade and Sub-Zero. The boss and sub-boss from MK3, Motaro and Shao Kahn, also return. There are 4 additional characters that are playable from the start. Jade, after the renegade princess Kitana killed her evil twin Mileena and escaped from Outworld to Earth, her close friend Jade was appointed by the Emperor Shao Kahn to find and bring her back alive. Kitana, she is accused of treason after killing Mileena. She now attempts to reach Queen Sindel to warn her of their true past. Reptile, as one of Shao Kahn's most trusted servants, Reptile assists Jade in the hunt for Kitana, but with secret orders enabling him to kill her if necessary. Scorpion, Scorpion escapes from Earth's hell when Shao Kahn makes a failed attempt at stealing the souls and eventually joins the struggle against the Outworld. 3 more are unlockable characters via the Ultimate Combat Code. Classic Sub-Zero, having been seemingly killed in the first game, Sub-Zero mysteriously returns to again attempt an assassination of Shang Tsung. Ermac, a mysterious warrior that exists as a life force by the souls of dead Outworld warriors in Shao Kahn's possession. Mileena, after she was killed by Kitana, Mileena was brought back to life by Shao Kahn to help him to defeat Earth's warriors with her combat skills and a mind-reading connection to her sister. Human Smoke is also available using a code before the start of a match. Returning characters were warmly welcomed by critics as an improvement the lackluster roster of MK3 with the greatly missed Kitana, Mileena, Reptile, and especially Scorpion. The female ninja characters, returning from Mortal Kombat 2, were portrayed by a different actress, Becky Gable, due to the lawsuits issued by Catalan Zamia and some of the other MKII actors against Midway Games. They were also given a different set of outfits and hairstyles, which were again identical for all of them. There are also 2 new hidden opponents and console exclusives, Noob Saibot and Rain. Although Noob Saibot was featured in the original MK3, he is no longer a palette swap of Kano but instead of a ninja. As before, he is fought via combat code. Rain is featured in the game's opening montage, but he is actually a fake hidden character that is not found in the arcade game. Both Noob Saibot and Rain were made playable for the 16-bit console versions, although Shiva was removed, and the 2 boss characters are playable via a cheat code. Release. Like the other Mortal Kombat games so far, this one made its debut in the arcades. Arcade owners who already owned Mortal Kombat 3 were provided with the option to upgrade to Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 for free. In 2008, the Mortal Kombat series co-creator, designer and producer Ed Boon said that UMK3 is his favorite 2D Mortal Kombat title. It was also the last game he has programmed himself. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 was ported to many home consoles with varying results, including stationary and portable consoles, the Xbox Live Arcade, and iOS-based mobile devices and mobile phones. The game was also bundled with Mortal Kombat Armageddon for the PlayStation 2 and included in compilation release Mortal Kombat Arcade Collection for the PC, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. The developers and publishers of the various releases included Acclaim Entertainment, Avalanche Software, Electronic Arts, Eurocom, Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment, and Williams Entertainment. The later versions usually feature online play and other improvements over the arcade version, and in some cases even 3D graphics. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 WaveNet Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 WaveNet was a rare network version of the game that allowed for online multiplayer matches. It was tested only in the Chicago and San Francisco areas that used a dedicated T1 line, connected directly to Midway's Chicago headquarters. Many people outside the test area were not aware of its existence during its release. One store kept the T1 line installed after the test concluded, but eventually removed the WaveNet game in favor of a Golden T game that uses a dial-up connection. It is highly unlikely that any WaveNet test games were ever released to the public after the infrastructure was dismantled, and so there are no known ROM image dumps of this version. One of the reasons this version was not widely adopted was the rarity and cost of T1 lines at the time. The game was released before alternative broadband access was available. At the time, a T1 was the only guaranteed way to get broadband into an arcade, but the game did not utilize the full bandwidth of the T1. Midway subsidized the cost of the line during the tests to make it more attractive to the arcade owners. Super Nintendo Entertainment System The Super Nintendo Entertainment System version was developed by Avalanche Software and published by Williams Entertainment in June 1996 in North America and by Acclaim Entertainment on November 28, 1996 in Europe. The limitations of the system led to many cuts that were made to fit everything on a SNES cartridge. The announcer no longer says the characters' names. Shiva was removed. And Shao Kahn's Lost Treasures chest has only 10 boxes instead of 12. Many changes affected the game's finishing moves. Rain and Noob Saibot have no regular fatalities or other finishing moves. Kitana's Kiss of Death only inflates heads. Sonya Blade's friendship from MK3 is used, as opposed to her friendship from the arcade version of UMK3. Ermac's fatality is altered. Scorpion's Hellraiser fatality is different and is no longer censored like the arcade one. Animality finishing moves were also removed, ironically keeping the Mercy move, which was originally a requirement for Animalities and MK3. On the other hand, brutalities were introduced. A finishing move in which the player attacks their opponent with a series of kicks and punches which result in the victim exploding. At the same time, some changes were actually improvements over the arcade version. Rain and Noob Saibot are made into playable characters for the first time. Mileena, Ermac, and Classic Sub-Zero are playable out of the box. Motaro and Shao Kahn are unlockable characters for two-player fights, although only one player can choose a boss at a time. An exclusive Easter egg allows access to 3 separate cheat menus, where the player can drastically alter gameplay, access hidden content or view the character's endings, among many other things. Sega Genesis The Sega Genesis version was developed by Avalanche Software and published by Williams Entertainment in June 1996 in North America and by Acclaim Entertainment on November 28, 1996 in Europe. Due to the limitations of the system's hardware, the Sega Genesis port featured inferior graphics and sound to these of the SNES port. Like on the SNES, Shiva was removed. Shao Kahn's treasure chest has only 10 boxes, the announcer no longer says the characters' names, Kitana's Kiss of Death only inflates heads, Scorpion's Hellraiser fatality is different, Sonya's friendship from Mortal Kombat 3 is used, and the game retains the bank stage. There were, however, several differences. Unlike the SNES version, the Genesis version features more stages, with the addition of the 5 new ones. It also features 6 of the original ones from MK3, including the subway, bank, rooftop, soul chamber, the temple, and the pit 3. There are several additional cuts regarding special and finishing moves. Both Animalities and Mercy were removed. Rain and Noob were given a brutality, but no other finishing moves. Human Smoke shares Scorpion's combos, rather than having unique ones. In Striker's friendship, the running characters are replaced by dogs. It did, however, have exclusive features in comparison to the arcade. Again, like the SNES port, Rain and Noob Saibot are made playable characters along with bosses Motaro and Shao Kahn, and Mileena, Ermac and Classic Sub-Zero are playable without any need of codes. Brutalities are also included in this version. Shang Tsung can morph into Robot Smoke, Noob Saibot, and Rain, which is not possible in the arcades, while Nightwolf is given the Red Shadow shoulder move that was later used in MKT. This version also features a rendition of Pong entitled MK4, which is the same as the one that appeared in the Genesis Mega Drive port of MK3. Sega Saturn The Sega Saturn version was developed by Eurocom and published in 1996 by Williams Entertainment in North America and by GT Interactive in Europe. It is based directly on the version of Mortal Kombat 3 that was released for the PlayStation and PC. It thus has the same graphical quality and menu system. Since the arcade intro sequence is missing, Rain does not appear in the game, yet the message combat code Rain can be found in the graveyard is still displayed. It also contains several elements of MK3 that were removed for the arcade version of UMK3, such as the bank level and Noob Saibot being a Shadow Kano as in MK3. Shang Tsung is given a morph for the robot Smoke, which was not possible in the arcades. There are a few new combat codes, but several that were present in the arcade release do not work any longer. The secret characters can be unlocked via a secret options screen, eliminating the need to enter 3 separate combat codes to unlock them. The combat codes themselves were also shortened to have 6 slots instead of 10. Mortal Kombat Advance Mortal Kombat Advance is the title given to the Game Boy Advance port of the game, which was developed by Verticraft and published by Midway Games in North America on December 12, 2001 and in Europe on March 1, 2002. This version is based on the SNES port, but each character has only one individual fatality and one friendship. 3 hidden characters can be unlocked by completing any tower other than Novice, Human Smoke, Motaro, and Shao Kahn. The GBA control system features 2 fewer buttons than those used in UMK3, which results in many special moves button sequences being consolidated or changed. The violence in this game was toned down due to a younger fan base using the GBA and there is less blood. PlayStation 2 On all Premium Edition copies of the PlayStation 2 version of 2006's Mortal Kombat, Armageddon, a near-arcade perfect version of the game is included on the first disc. However, it is impossible to save unlocked characters in this version. XBOX Live Arcade The XBOX Live Arcade version has very few differences from the arcade original. There are some minor glitches in the network play on XBOX Live and there is no option to save the combat code unlocked characters. Online leaderboards were created to keep track of all-time network stats and friends. The screen size was adjustable for anything between 43 and 69 televisions, and unlockable achievements were also included. The game was accidentally released by Warner Bros. Interactive on the digital download service on the Friday evening of October 20, 2006, but was quickly pulled about 20 minutes later. According to XBOX Live Director of Programming, Major Nelson, an emergency meeting was called to discuss what to do about the game's release, knowing some keen users had already purchased the game. The decision was made to go on and release the game on the next morning, 4 days before its scheduled release date. As of 2010, it remained as the only post-launch XBLA game to be released on any day other than Wednesday. As of June 2010, the game cannot be downloaded as it was removed from XBLA due to publisher evolving rights and permissions. Those who have purchased the game before this date can re-download and play online. Ultimate Mortal Kombat On June 27, 2007, MK co-creator Ed Boon officially confirmed a Nintendo DS port entitled Ultimate Mortal Kombat, releasing the very first inside report and new screenshots on IGN. The game, developed by Other Ocean Interactive and published by Midway Games on November 12, 2007 in North America and on December 7, 2007 in Europe, is an arcade-perfect port of UMK3, and includes Wi-Fi play and brings back the minigame Puzzle Combat from Mortal Kombat, Deception. Additionally, when unlocking Ermac, Mileena and Classic Sub-Zero with combat codes on the Versus screen, they remain unlocked even after the game is reset as the game now includes game profiles which players can access. Mobile In December 2010, EA Mobile released a Java-based port of the game for mobile phones. The game features only 6 playable fighters and a single boss character. iOS In December 2010, Electronic Arts developed and published a remake of the game for iOS, which features a wireless 2-player mode that could function over either Wi-Fi or Bluetooth connections. Although the gameplay remains true to the 2D original, the graphics were updated from the digitized sprites of the arcade machine, and were then rendered in 3D. Control was implemented via an on-screen joystick and buttons, utilizing the iOS-based device's capacitive touchscreen. Network communication allowed for scores to be posted online, and a simplified control scheme was also included to improve accessibility. The character roster was incomplete, featuring only 9 playable characters. Success at playing the game would unlock 2 additional fighters. Both boss characters were included as CPU-only opponents. The game also features achievements. In June 2011, EA updated it to include the full roster and 6 new arenas. Mortal Kombat Arcade Collection equals. The game is a part of the digital release package Mortal Kombat Arcade Collection, developed by Other Ocean Interactive and NetherRealm Studios and published by Warner Bros. Interactive for the PC, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in 2012. Arcade Collection also includes the first Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2. Reception. Critical reception of the game has varied depending on the version under review. The initial releases were generally well received by critics, especially the 32-bit Sega Saturn version. EGM gave it an 8.625 and named it their Game of the Month, commenting that it is a near-perfect translation of the arcade version, with the only problem being the long loading times. Video Games rated this port a review score of 8/10, calling it simply a great game, and stating that if there was ever a definitive MK game, this is it. In GamePro, Major Mike summarized that Saturn owners left out in the cold when MK3 hit the PlayStation can now gloat, Ultimate has arrived, and it offers more fighters, moves, fatalities, and secrets than MK3. While he criticized some elements of the game itself, such as the weak fatalities, he held that the Saturn conversion faithfully replicates the arcade game in every respect. Rich Ledbetter of Maximum gave it 4 out of 5 stars. He commented that while Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 doesn't measure up to contemporary Capcom fighters in terms of gameplay, it is unsurpassed in its huge number of secrets and replayability. He also praised Eurocom's conversion, saying it is a superior effort to Williams' conversion of MK3 for the PlayStation. Rad Automatic of Sega Saturn magazine rated it a 91%. Like EGM and GamePro, he praised the game's retention of the full content and quality of the arcade version, but also added, Capcom have just released 3 bona fide awesome 2D beat-em-ups onto the Saturn, and I couldn't honestly say that I rate MK3 above them. A review by Computer and Video Games gave this excellent conversion of a great coin-op a rating of 4 out of 5, calling it essential for fans, and something well worth consideration from all Saturn owners. The SNES version was nominated for Nintendo Power Awards 96 in the category Best Tournament Fighting Game. Years later, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 was also named as the Best Retro Mortal Kombat Game by Alex Langley of Arcade Sushi in 2013. On the other hand, Mortal Kombat Advance, the later port for the Game Boy Advance, was panned by critics. It was given a review score of 2.9 by GameSpot's Jeff Kstman for how it plays little to nothing like the game it's based on, and as of 2014 has a rating of only 34% at GameRankings. EGM editor Dan Chu gave the game the first 0 rating in the magazine's history, and it tied with 3 other titles for the flat-out Worst Game Award by GameSpot in 2002. Advance was included among the worst games of all time by Games Radar in 2014. Ultimate Mortal Kombat for the Nintendo DS was considered much better than the GBA game. It was given a review score of 7.8 out of 10 from IGN's Greg Miller, who wrote that if all you want is a really solid, fun version of Mortal Kombat 3 that can go online, that's what you're going to get. It's good stuff all around. GameSpot's Best and Worst of 2006 included the XBLA version among the 5 best fighting games of the year. U.S. Appeals Court Judge Richard Posner considered Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 to be a feminist violent video game. finding that Indianapolis' unregistered trademark attempt to ban Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 violated the First Amendment. Judge Posner wrote a game is feminist in depicting a woman as fully capable of holding her own in violent combat with heavily armed men. It thus has a message, even in a ideology, just as books and movies do. Judge Posner further marveled that the woman wins all the duels. She's as strong as the men, she is more skillful, more determined, and she does not flinch at the sight of blood. Ed Boon, one of the creators of the series, has stated Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 to be his favorite Mortal Kombat arcade title. Legacy. Mortal Kombat Trilogy was released by Midway in 1996 as a follow-up to Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Unlike UMK3, Trilogy was not released in arcades but was instead released for the Sony PlayStation, Nintendo 64, Sega Saturn and PC, as well as for the Game.com and Zone. Trilogy features the same gameplay and story, but adds several completely new characters and introduces new features such the aggressor bar, a meter that fills during the course of the match to make a player character faster and stronger for a short time, and the brutality finishing moves that were introduced in the 16-bit versions of UMK3. Notes. References. External links, official website, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 at Midway Games, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, the Mortal Kombat Wiki, UMK3 at Mortal Kombat Online.